Alright, so we're following another mission with the trio here today. This time they're going after a weird occurrence in a school where a child seemingly keeps repeating the first grade, but like in a weird supernatural way. So of course, Jujutsu Kaisen has to go investigate it. Usami is revealing to the crew that Maru is an alien. They already knew, of course, but he's just saying it out loud because it's just revealing that, like, all right, now everybody is on the same page, which I know seems unnecessary, but it's, I don't know, the protocol that the Sumerians wanted or something, and they agreed to with the Jujutsu higher-ups. As they say, the embargo's finally been lifted. The embargo of 3 1/8 chapters. But they are still kind of doing like this soft Cold War thing between the Jujutsu sorcerers and the Sumerians, because Usami obviously doesn't fully trust them, as he shouldn't, and he wants Tsurugi to get as much information from Maru as he can. And in the previous chapter, he did get a bunch of information. He found out what Maru's goal was, you know, trying to figure out if the humans can coexist with the Sumerians, more or less. And Tsurugi remembers that, but he actively chooses not to tell Usami, which is straight up treason. And it's because Maru told him not to tell anyone. But still, if this happens in real life and you're around like a suspicious person and they tell you not to tell anybody, you should definitely tell someone. But anyway, back to their mission. There's like this little kid in the first grade who keeps repeating year after year, and it's kind of like a facsimile of the same person. And of course, they call the parents and they check the records or whatever, but it leads to just some kind of like weird loop where it's like nonsense speaking. And there's nothing they can do about it, I guess, other than just allowing it to happen and ultimately just having to rely on Jujutsu Kaisen to solve it for them. Sure. I also like when the teacher is like calling the parents, he's like tapping his temple to like make the call, which I guess is showing that they all have like neural links in the future, which is pretty good foresight from Gege, because I do think that in 50, 60 years, we're all probably going to have implants to some degree, right? We're not going to have like phones anymore. We're either going to have like, you know, hyper glasses or straight up, you know, things in our heads. And when I say Neuralink, I know that that is like a company and I'm not necessarily supporting them. I'm just saying the idea of what the Neuralink is and what it can become, I think would be pretty cool in real life, right? I would sign up for the second phase of it. Why not? Have ChatGPT in your head, that would be incredible. But ultimately, what this is all boiling down to is that they have to go investigate this kid directly as he leaves school to figure out what's going on. And we're also finding out what this guy's name is, Mino. Maybe his name is revealed in like the first or second chapter when he's having like a conversation with Usami. I don't really remember, but now I know for sure this guy's name is Mino, and he is a weakling. So we don't have to speculate about that. Or at least we're told he's a weakling. I don't know, maybe he's like a sleeping giant or something. But I guess this guy is like the new version of Ichiji, more or less. But anyway, their theory is that there is a curse user, who again is just a bad sorcerer, winds up taking the place of some random kid who enrolls in the school each year and probably killing their families and using a rental property for bait, you know, to lure in the families and the kid or whatever. And that because of that, it's very likely that they're going to have to fight this curse user, which, I mean, of course they are. Why wouldn't they? So Tsurugi and Tanjiro eventually wind up finding this kid. Yes, I know I said Tanjiro. That is like my joke on Maru. He is essentially just Tanjiro from space. And I think this chapter more so solidifies that than ever. And they start questioning the kid immediately until they eventually come across this like Shikigami thing. Like, it actually has a pretty cool design that's like protecting him. And it's pretty interesting because Maru, when he sees this, says Kalian, however you pronounce this word. It's never brought up or mentioned again in this chapter, but for sure that is like letting us know that there's probably some kind of creatures like this that come from the Sumerian world. Maybe their own version of cursed spirits, which we really haven't gotten into yet. But like I talked about in the previous review, we for sure will see what happens when cursed energy leaks out of the Sumerians and whatever kind of cursed spirit or creature that forms. It's probably something similar to this, judging from his reaction. Tsurugi is about to attack it, of course, but then he has like this quick inner monologue thinking about how it can't get out of hand too fast because they can't have Maru using his abilities, because it was revealed in the previous chapter that if Maru uses his abilities or uses it too much, his brother will notice it because they're linked in some way, you know, whatever. And if the brother senses that, then he's going to know that there's like a problem. And Tsurugi is trying to avoid that because they don't want to go to war with the aliens, as stated here. And I mentioned this before too. This is a major Chekhov's gun at this point in the series, right? This is essentially what the series is about. Is Japan going to go to war with the aliens? And, there's a chance that it might not happen. Because, like I also said before, Gege built up the curse merger for so long in the original series. All of humanity merging with Tengen through the barriers that Kenjaku had put up. And it seemed like it was going to happen, and I wouldn't have minded. It would have been pretty cool. Yeah, there would have been millions of people dying, but it's freaking manga. But it ultimately doesn't happen. Not even close to happening. It kind of just fizzles out with the rest of the storylines that were going on. So it's very possible the war might not play out in this series too. I mean, at this point, I would say there's like a 75% chance that it will, but there's that 25% chance that Gege just doesn't feel like making that happen because this is a limited series. And I do think that we're going to see the alien Sukuna guy fight for sure, because that would really be anticlimactic if he never does anything. But as for like a full-scale war of the 50,000 Sumerians versus Japan, probably not going to happen. But it would be cool if it did. And also, the way that we see these three guys in the background, these are probably going to be like, the three strongest guys, or the three guys that they for sure fight. Cross, Maru's brother, the Tengen looking guy, I forget his name, and then the Sukuna King guy. This is like, I guess, the new Sukuna, Kenjaku, and Urarame / Mahito, maybe. But they don't fight this Shikigami thing. They just kind of talk to this kid, and he reveals that his mom had died just randomly, and that, like, the trauma had forced him to make a deal with her to where he can, like, stay a first grader forever, and she kind of became, like, this Shikigami cursed spirit thing, which, of course, is supposed to parallel to Akotsu's origin. I mean, Tsurugi even mentions it in this chapter, so it's obviously pretty on the nose. Just in this world, if you have some kind of innate jujutsu ability or sorcery or cursed energy or whatever, through like extreme trauma like that, it can like amplify, and then you can just straight up curse someone. But essentially he has like his own version of Rika here, who is like allowing him to be a first grader forever so that he can, I don't know, feel more comfortable with life or whatever and deal with the trauma. But also, like, I guess that's who we heard on the Neuralink phone. It was just this cursed spirit like malfunctioning or trying to mimic what human conversation was like. Then they eventually wind up going to his house. And I really like the way that this sequence plays out, because as you're reading it, you obviously don't know what's going to happen at the end, because at the end of the chapter it's revealed that this is all a facade. But Mino and Yuka wind up going to the little kid's house ahead of time. And once Tsurugi and Maru find out what's going on with the kid, they go to his house as well. And you think, oh, they're all going to the same house, but they're actually not. They are both in two separate locations at this point. Yuka also looks over to the red spider lilies in the garden, and I'm sure you've noticed them from Demon Slayer. The blue spider lily is like the MacGuffin of that series, more or less. But the red spider lily in like Japanese culture represents like funeral, separation and farewell, and protection, which obviously plays into the themes of what's going on with the kid and his Shikigami mom. So they decide to dig there first. And Yuka like pulls up, one of the vines, and it has like his mom's skull in it. And we also see Tsurugi and Maru there digging up the corpse as well. And it's just really actually well done. I like this sequence. It's pretty cool because you don't realize what's fully happening at this point, how it's like two separate sequences playing out. I mean, I'm sure some of you are ultra geniuses and you figured it out immediately, but to us regular people, it was a fun ride, especially once you figure out how everything happened at the end. I also genuinely laughed out loud at this sequence because they are digging up this kid's mom's corpse in front of him, and they're just so nonchalant about it. Tsurugi's like, guess this is his mom's body. And then Maru's like, did you bury her yourself? And he's like, yeah. And Maru's like, oh, that must have been tough. You did a good job. Like, what? I mean, I know that once you find out what happens at the end, it all makes it seem okay. But in the moment, this is ostensibly like a 7-year-old kid. But once this happens, they're like, okay, I guess we're going to have to put this kid into Jujutsu High and like somehow reform his trauma. Even though like I don't think therapy is like really a thing in Japan. That's really mainly like a Western thing, but I guess they're just gonna like train him to be a sorcerer and hopefully he'll overcome it that way. And then when everything seems like it's gonna be fine and good, suddenly Yuka calls Tsurugi, and that's when we find out they are at two different houses. There's multiple houses here, and that where Yuka and Mino are, there's like 5 bodies buried. And it's revealed, of course, at the very end that the little kid is actually not a little kid because he's tearing his face off, and it seems like they're like an old person. And the theory that Mino had in the beginning is very likely true. They are straight up just murdering families here for some reason. We don't know the full motive yet, although it is said like multiple times that there seems to be no rational thought process going on here. So either this person is just a despicable psychopath and just killing for the fun of it like some kind of One Piece villain, or there's more of a motive here, which I'm pretty sure there is. Gege doesn't just typically make, you know, curly mustache villains. So I am really interested in seeing where this is going. I like this chapter, a really fun twist at the end. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments, and if you liked the video, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.